Okay, welcome everyone, Mark Saturn again, and it is time to take a look at the posing if you have multiple subtools modeled. So open up Lightbox and we will use the demo soldier for this purpose. This is the figure and we want to repose the figure. Now to do that, uh, make sure that you have everything enabled, everything is visible and correct. So if you are working with your own model, and save it separately before you start posing. It's also a good idea to restart ZBrush, or at least going in to the preferences and initialize ZBrush to before you are actually jumping in and working on the posing. Now, because we have more subtools, it is not enough if we are just creating a ZSphere rig and trying to modify the subtools one by one, because the basic rigging is working only with one subtool, but we have a plugin called Transpose Master that helps us to create a kind of complex thing. So just let me hit on ZSphere rig, because this will tell Transpose Master that we want to build up a skeleton to deform to pose this mesh. So Z plugin ZSphere is enabled, model is selected, and now I will hit T-pose mesh. Now T-pose mesh, when we are hitting this, it will copy all of the meshes and put them into a new model. This is called T-pose, and this T-pose model, as you see, we have no number, so it will merge every subtool into this model at their lowest level. So lowest level, it is important. These are poly meshes. Okay, you don't want to do this with a Dynamesh. So you have low resolution meshes with multiple subdivision levels, and when you are posing, you will get the best results if you posing on the lower level, and later on for repairing and to getting back your details, you will go up to the higher levels as you're working. Now the original demo soldier is still there. We have a T-pose, but we also have a generously created Z rig right in the middle of the guy, and transparency turned on by default. Okay, so it's not enabled here, but as you see, um, because we are using the plugin, it does the job for us. Now, don't forget, because it's a symmetrical rig, we will start by turning on symmetry. So X is turned on, and this hip joint is quite a big one. So let me make it a little bit smaller. Move it in the right position, and it's time to work up the spine. So next joint, move it up in the middle, another joint, Q, and move it up. It takes some time, and to get the best result, we definitely have to tweak this rig. It's 90% it will not work just as it is, so we have to make modifications. So Q and scale it up. You don't have to create a rig that's fixed that fits that fills in the model. So as you see, this rig is thin. It is just like a skeleton. And it's a good idea if you just try to follow the natural structure of the body of a man, of an animal. So it's not a big deal. Alright, now another link. Move it back up front. So here we go. We have the elbow positioning. Elbow is right. Maybe pose. Okay, I don't want it to be absolutely perfect. just do what's simply possible. Okay, another link probably for the fingers. Oh no, it's enough if we are just making it smaller. That's it. And for the thumb, so we need another one for the thumb. Q, W, another link. Okay. Right, take a look at sideways, pulling it back on. Okay, now that's nice. Of course, we have to have something for the neck. Pulling it back. Chest, the middle of the chest is fine. Time to create the neck joint. Now, think it will be a little bit of a strange solution because for the head we have to use a couple more joints than we just tend to create for modeling. So rigging is a little bit different. Here there's a neck fundamental joint, but from this point I will create another one, or just take a look. So here's the top of the head. What we also do need to create for the eyes, so Q again, because usually if there is no kind of a peg joint here, the face can distort heavily. So we will try to avoid that distortion, and this is why we are creating these kind of a peg-like joints. Now I will add another one here at the bottom or at the back, and let me pull this back to the front. Okay, so that will hold the chin. So when I start rotating the model, that would be a good option to hold at the chin. Now, because the chest has a quite high volume, I also want to add some kind of a rib cage. Q, insert, and probably insert here, and add the rib cage, pulling it in. Okay, with another joint that helps me to bind the rib cage. Okay, so that will be for the chest. Probably here there's another point to add, and okay, so that's a good point. And one for the back or the backpack. Let me correct myself, and pulling it back on. Alright, now it fills the volume. Okay, it's good. And probably I want to add some side fins here to keep the waist in the move. Here and here, W, just pulling them out. There's nothing fancy going on here. Okay, and now take a look at the legs. So Q, adding the legs, pulling the sides, Q again, adding the thigh bone, pull it to, okay. So in real life situation, the hip has some width, so please don't make this joint too close to the center of symmetry, mirror plane. You want to keep it outside a bit. And for the legs to follow, move it, sides, okay. Knees, where are those knees? Right there. Okay, and for the legs I will create, just let me resize it a bit, move it outside, Q, create a link to the front, another one to the toes. Okay, now it's done. Make sure that there is some space between the two. This model is not ideal for posing because the legs and everything is just way too close. At least we will give it a try. Usually you will get much better results if you have a distance between these, but we'll take a look if it works or not. Okay, now what about the heels? Q and take it. Let's lift this up. Fine. F, zooming in. So this is our basic rig. It looks promising. I don't know how it works yet, but it's time for testing. Now, this kind of a rigging link is established. So if I walk down, just let me check. Rigging is here. Now I can click on bind mesh, so it will tie the bones to the model. So it is time to select the bone and start it moving. Can you see how it moves everything? It moves the panels here, it moves the t-shirt and everything included. Now if I have to modify it, for example, I need to add a spike here because I'm not satisfied with the deformation of the link there. So I can just turn off bind mesh and it will get back to the original stage. And what I want to do, I want to add some pegs to the shoulder. So go back to Q mode, insert another link, and create another peg from that link and lift that up to hold the shoulders in place. Now let me check the results, bind mesh, and switching to move. And as you see, now the result is different. So the latissimus dorsi is deforming, so the backpack and everything is deforming with the figure. But right now, because I have this peg around here, there's nothing really to worry about. Now just let me check the legs. So can I move away? Oh yeah, it's working fine. Okay, that's just oh, it's cool. So we can move the joints. We can actually move this whole thing. So if we want to lift up the legs, we can do that. Of course, moving the side. So it's a nice solution. Can we? Okay, we can even adjust the chest. And what about the face? So what can we do with the face? If I'm switching to rotate, can I rotate this guy? Okay, so I can tilt the face up and down. Now this is a common question with beginners, what to do if you want to rotate the head outside the axis. So if you want to break up symmetry, what to do, just turn off symmetry and now you will be ready to rotate around your objects. So if you're selecting a joint and start rotating around that joint, now you can just playing around. Okay, the binding mesh is still ready, so I will just still active. I will just create a random pose. Okay, it's not a real one. Just let me pull it this guys and just break it here. Turn off perspective. I want to make this guy standing, so moving the parts accordingly. Probably, yeah, in this way. Maybe one arm is in front, rotating. So I'm switching to rotation and pulling this hand up, tilting, or actually, yeah, moving it this way. So moving ends up, probably closing a little bit of the hand. Oh, fits. Yeah, I just messed this up. Let me go back. And y-axis, okay. Alright, so this is my pose. Oh, it's not 100% perfect. Let me tilt the body a bit more. Okay, now there is some balance. Okay, so the guy is standing. It has some kind of an action. Okay, now what to do? So in this situation, so bind mesh is active, and don't forget, this model is not my final model. This model is created by the plugin, the transpose plugin. Now, when you are ready, when you have the rig done, when you have everything that's going on fine, then you just want to hit T-pose sub T. Now, when you hit this, it will get your information and it will copy that information onto your subtool with all the models. Now, it is not perfect, okay? So make sure you spend the time to adjust and make the corrections. So BMV to make the changes. So I have to adjust this vest, but otherwise everything is fine and dandy. Okay, so that's the simplest way to pose your characters. Keep in mind, before you are jumping into your pose, make sure you have the subtools prepared. Make sure you have all of the subtools and poly meshes. Make sure you have a low resolution version of your model. Otherwise, it is really hard to make a nice posing. And if you want to save some time before you actually start using the transpose master, it is better if you are experimenting with creating the rig. Okay, so because it could be time consuming, so spend some time with it and prepare for about an hour work or a half hour to make a correct pose. Okay, so at least at the beginning it takes some time, so it's not just jumping in and try to do this. So it takes some practice. So thank you very much and see you next time.